It's one thing to make a budget. It is a whole other thing to actually stick to it. So if your budget keeps getting busted by habitual spending, then I've got 9 tips to help you stop spending money on unnecessary things. Welcome to Modern Frugality. My name is Jen. I'm a personal finance writer and amateur YouTuber, helping you to manage your finances in a frugal way and build a secure financial foundation. If you're a subscriber, thanks so much for coming back. If you like this topic, definitely give me a thumbs up so I will keep making more like this. And if you're not a subscriber, then click that button in the bottom right-hand corner and you will get more videos on saving money, spending smarter, paying off debt every week. Everyone buys stuff that they don't need. For me, it's planners. I love planning things, but people only need one planner, maybe 2. And I just can't seem to get that through my head. I see a planner and my logical brain just like shuts down. There's hope for you though. You can stop spending money on unnecessary things. You just need to follow a few tips. And hopefully by the end of this, you'll stop believing the lie that says you can't stick to a budget, because you can stick to a budget. You just need to develop some habits that will help you get there. And it'll take some time, but once you do that, you can maintain a budget more easily. And it won't be perfect. I've never made a perfect budget. I've never perfectly stuck to a budget, except that one time I was in quarantine. But other than that, I've never stuck to a budget perfectly. Budgets are fluid, they change up, but you will have a much easier time sticking to a budget when you can break some bad spending habits and build up some good ones. And here are the ways that I think you can do that. The first is to create a realistic budget. You're totally capable of making the perfect budget, even if you can't stick to it. Your budget has to match where you are mentally. If you make a budget that's so strict it's unrealistic, you're more likely to give up. So do yourself a favor and make a budget that's actually realistic to where you are and just improves 10%. 10% is all you need to be improving every month, because by the end of the year, you're 100% better than where you were before. And it probably won't even take you a year to get there, but we think we need to be perfect budgeters by the 3rd month we make a budget. And it's just not the case. It takes 3 months just to get the hang of budgeting, and then you can start making improvements. Set some realistic goals and make a realistic budget to match. The second is to break bad habits. We all have things we buy without thinking, whether it's ending up in the Starbucks drive-thru and you don't know how you got there, or ending up at the line in Chipotle and you're like, but I have food at home. At one point, these purchases probably served a purpose, but they built up over time and now you don't even know why you're there. Like picking up a piece of candy in the line at the grocery checkout. I don't know why I do it, but just somehow it ends up on that little rolling thing. I don't know why. It's time to identify those bad habits and break them. Breaking bad habits will get you on the path to spending with intention, and then your wallet won't be controlled by a yummy smell or a well-crafted ad. And in order to break bad habits, you have to replace them with good habits. It's a lot easier to figure out what habits you want to replace your bad habits with once you know your values. And I did a video on that you can watch. I'll link it in the description. But knowing your values will tell you what the drivers are behind your habitual and impulsive spends, so that you can figure out a different habit to create, to replace that with, that serves the same purpose, but costs you less money or is more constructive to getting you to your goals. 4 is to cut down on decision fatigue. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever been on a diet and done really, really good, and then 4 or 5 p.m. hits and everything goes downhill from there? Yeah, that is due to decision fatigue. When we make decision after decision throughout the day, our mental stores of energy deplete and we experience decision fatigue. So cutting down on the number of decisions that you make cuts down on that decision fatigue. And so later in the day, you're able to make better decisions because you're preserving your stores of mental energy. When you cut down on the number of decisions that you make, either by Steve Jobs in it and wearing the same thing every day, or building healthy habits, you can help yourself make fewer unnecessary purchases because your good choices are on autopilot. 5th is to try a no-spend challenge. Everything in moderation is not my motto. I'm horrible at moderation. I'm very all or nothing. If you can relate to that, then you will find a no-spend challenge very helpful in controlling your spending on stuff because it will eliminate the decisions that you have to make throughout the day, so it cuts down on decision fatigue. It helps you identify bad habits. And obviously, when you're not spending money on anything, it helps you spend less on unnecessary things. But even after the no spend challenge, it'll help you identify those things that you really need to be aware and intentional of. No spend challenges are very hard to complete. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but they're not difficult to understand. I made a video on no spend month rules. You can check that out in the description, and it'll tell you step by step how to design a no spend challenge that works for you so that you will follow it, not somebody else's challenge so that it doesn't benefit you as much or you don't stick with it. 6 is to set up barriers. Some purchases are habitual, some purchases are just impulse buys. You're just there and you see the planner and you're like, well, I already have 3, but what's another? So when you set up barriers, you're making it harder for you to follow through with potential impulse purchases. So that is maybe driving a different route home from work or leaving your credit cards at home. You can dump your cart out at Target before you get to the register. Like, you don't have to buy everything just because you put it in your cart. There are a lot of barriers that you can set up, put in place, that will just help you be a little bit more intentional and just pause before making that unnecessary purchase. So figure out what those are for you. 7 is to use cash. Cash is not everyone's favorite way to budget. I personally don't like to carry a lot of cash. Cash envelopes are hard for me to maintain and manage, but for a season when you're trying to train yourself to stop buying unnecessary things, cash is super helpful. A cash envelope system really does work to do this. So for a set period, whether maybe 3 months or 6 months, whatever, leave that card at home, only use the cash you need for the day. Don't bring a whole month or whole week's worth of cash on you, but bring the cash you'll use for the day. That way, at the end of the day, when you're out, then you're not buying anything else, habitual or impulsive. 8 is to make a plan. Plans are not the restriction people think they are. Plans actually give you a lot of freedom. Some of the examples of plans you can make: number 1 is obviously your budget. That's a plan for your money, but also a meal plan. So what you're going to eat for the week, that frees up one more decision throughout the day because you already know what you're doing. To plan your time, your schedule, so that you know what you're doing throughout the day. You're more likely to get the things done that you want to get done rather than just floating through the day and hoping they get done. A schedule is much more effective than a to-do list. You can prioritize your schedule, you can give different allotments of time to more important things, and you're more likely to do something that is scheduled versus just on a to-do list. So be more intentional about making plans in your life, and you will find that your unnecessary and unintentional purchases will drop. 9 is to educate yourself. Learn the impact that your choices make on your finances, your life, your community, your environment. When I stopped thinking about just how my purchases made me feel and started thinking about how my purchases impacted the greater world around me, it changed the amount of things I buy, the way I buy them, the version I buy of them, and it created this next level frugality in me because no longer was I just buying things to treat myself. The purchases I made had a direct effect on other people's lives, and that became really important to me. Those are the 9 ways that you can stop spending money on unnecessary things. It is not an exhaustive list, but you don't need to be exhaustive to cut down on your impulsive and habitual spending. You just need to make 10% changes, incremental step ups to really improve and make those improvements last long term, because frugality is sustainable. It's not extreme, it's not crazy. You can practice this as a lifestyle and still live a full life. Start with these 9 and see how much they impact your spending. I promise you it will be quite a bit. If you like this, please subscribe at the bottom right-hand corner. This is exactly the kind of content I'll be putting out in the future. And like the video if you want to see more on this topic specifically.